And now, as I promised earlier, I will go to the audience for questions. And I see our very first questioner is Dr. Jerome. Well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. I'm Jerome Dances. I'm a retired mathematics professor. And what math professors are concerned about is that over the last decade, the number of students coming to college has gone up, but the number of students who are ready for college has gone down. And this is especially true for blacks, where in my state of Maryland, the number of black females coming to college is up by 20%. The number who are ready for college is down. For black males, there's an increase of 30%.
I'm sorry, respectfully, let me ask you to just get right to your question because we actually only have about 7 minutes left.
Well, the question is, when you talk about college ready, to what extent have you consulted the professors, say, of math education, the professors of mathematics and science and social studies, as opposed to the professors of math education and science education, who have a completely different view of what constitutes college ready and what constitutes appropriate mathematics to be taught in the schools?
Anyone?
I'll just take that from the Commission's perspective on one of our recommendations. One of the things that we recommended to address the standards issue that I've mentioned a couple of times was that states go back and take a look with their higher ed communities and with their business communities. The Senator talked about sort of both of these communities matter for these kids we want to see graduate with that are prepared for success after high school, and look at their standards and make a determination as to whether those standards are sufficient to truly prepare kids for success in both of those worlds. So I think that's something that ought to happen.
Governor Easley is actually at the moment one of the co-chairs of Achieve, and North Carolina is part of the American Diploma Project work. And so in doing that work at the state level and sort of advancing the work that Achieve did at the national level, the conversation has been essentially with instructors of first-year courses in English and mathematics, so they are math profs as opposed to math education profs, and that sort of is a good segue between what Senator Burr said. I'm just struck in mentioning Senator Burr and Governor Easley. Leadership matters on this, and so I speak from the perspective of North Carolina, and I can't speak to the other 49 states, but I can tell you that if Senator Burr had 99 co-sponsors, he'd have a law, not a bill. And so, some people are leading on this, and some people are following on this, and I guess we need to sort of get the followers in line more quickly. But, Senator Burr at the national level, Governor Easley at the state level, his appointees to the State Board of Education, really even going back a decade to our Supreme Court in North Carolina, which essentially defined our constitutional mandate in North Carolina as when the kids get out of high school, can they do anything that matters in terms of the world of work or going to post-secondary education? If anything, while we may be struggling with these issues, I feel like at least we've got people who are sort of steering the ship who really believe that we need to get to the right outcome, and I think that puts us, in some ways puts us ahead of other states.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
It actually follows on what you're saying, Sarah Sparks from Ed Daily. Could you talk a little bit about where you think the leadership, or what level of government you think the leadership should come from, since at least at the federal level, most Title I dollars, most federal money goes to the K-8 and to a certain extent the middle school, but there's not a whole lot of accountability-related funding at the high school level that could push some of the things that you're talking about.
Well, the commission didn't get too deeply into dollar conversations. There were 3 or 4 areas where we recommended that there ought to be money. But if you bring significant new accountability to high schools, obviously that ought to come with dollars. I mean, the two should never be separated, certainly. But if you bring one, you need the other as well.
Up there, including the Graduation Promise Fund, as well as tightening up accountability. There is kind of
That's better. Okay. I agree with both of those comments. I would just add that, again, using an example from my state, the Department of Public Instruction has completely reorganized or is in the process of completely reorganizing its intervention in high schools, and they're essentially going to make better use of the funds that they already have at hand, and also the funds that the schools, through existing categorical funding from the state, have available to them. We have disadvantaged student funding. We've got low wealth district funding. There are a lot of different, maybe too many confusing sort of categorical programs. But part of it is making sure that the money's spent, the money that we have is spent well, and they've got a plan to actually intervene. That's I think has much more potential than what they were doing, in part because it. Just to be a little, lack a little humility, it follows very much the kind of work that we do with schools in terms of the coaching that we provide on an ongoing basis.
And the Graduation Promise Act is designed to get directly at the resource input of your question.